Well, welcome back again. So, role of inclusive diversity at the workplace. Now, diversity is a much spoken hot topic in business circles these days. And I'm sure you have had a conversation on it for sure with your colleagues, ex colleagues, your friends, or your neighbors. The chat uncovers strategies to build a diverse team and use those diverse perspectives to achieve greater results for the benefit of employees and the companies. It's a win win for you and for the organization. But how? Let's look into it. Let's hear from our speakers and understand much more in a fireside chat. And joining us here is three of our favorite people. Please welcome co-founder and COO of MobiKwik, Upasana Taku, alongside Divya Gokulnath, co-founder of BYJU, and both of them in conversation with our moderator, Chaitali Mukherjee, partner and leader, people and organization at PwC India.
Hi everyone, welcome to this very exciting conversation with Upasana and Divya. In fact, knowing your backgrounds, I'm going to actually open up a question to both of you, Upasana and Divya, and maybe you can go first, Upasana. The way you've seen the workplace actually shifting, how are you seeing the definition of diversity changing from what it was earlier? And maybe specific to your organization, how have you seen the definition evolve? Maybe Upasana, you first, and Divya, then you.
Sure. So firstly, thanks for having me here. Very happy to be talking about diversity and inclusive diversity. I think what I can say is that when we got started with MobiKwik, that was more than 10 years ago. I think at that time, the number of participants, either as female founders of a company or even at CXO leadership level, or investors being open to them, I can say it was a far cry. I think things are definitely far more promising, and I know that the future will be gold for all the young women stepping into roles at MNCs or startups or founding companies or small businesses. So I am very much optimistic that things will be better. I think especially in FinTech, which is where I have been working, I can tell you that biases used to be very stereotypical. I remember being asked random questions about my personal life as I was front-ending fundraising conversations, and that didn't seem prudent to me at all. And even from a leadership opportunity perspective, it was people used to think about it, that should we make this woman a director or a VP? Will she be able to take the load of this much amount of work, given her personal life choices, etc.? I think there has been definitely a positive shift. And, last year we have seen, Miss Nair lead very successfully the grand, the first woman-led tech IPO in the country. So I think there is a lot more promise in the future. From our own organization perspective, I think that, I'm pushing the pedal forward, but we are currently at about 33% diversity in terms of female participation. And thankfully at all levels. And that is something that I'm very proud of, especially in engineering and product, where typically we used to have fewer women, with HR, PR, and marketing being the areas where women have previously been accepted very easily. So yeah, I think I didn't answer in 20 seconds, I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that we are going in the right direction, and Indian women have a lot to offer.
No, I totally agree. If you see what Upasana said, all the main points, right? Like having leaders who are women, who can show how it can be done, setting examples, thinking about this since inception. All of these lead to numbers which show throughout the, it's almost like a report card which is there to show when you have leaders on top, right? Leading by example, having this not as an afterthought, but since inception. So even if you look at how it's changed, it's diversity used to be a feminist notion before, right? But today it's almost an indispensable part of corporate agenda. And it can be attained only if it's imbibed since inception. And that's the same thing which Upasana actually mentioned. So we're seeing a lot of women entrepreneurs. We're seeing leaders across the world. It's very positive. It's an empowering feeling, frankly. And while corporate India is slowly becoming more diverse, and there are studies which show that as of 2021, we have a record-breaking 41 women leading Fortune 500 companies. I mean, it's not a number to be proud about, but it's much better than before. There is still so much ground left to cover in creating equitable opportunities to implement this diversity. And speaking about the pandemic, right, we can't but acknowledge what has happened in the wake of that. Lives of working professionals have been drastically affected. Empathetic leadership has become the need of the hour. And if we all know, women leaders are flag bearers of that. And in the last 2 years, the approach to work, it's completely changed. Companies across sectors, sizes, actively and consciously putting diversity and inclusion high on their agenda. And speaking of the pandemic, all of us know women are the most affected by it, with studies reporting that just the first year of it knocked out 54 million women from jobs around the world, widening this gender gap even further, right? It's 4.2% of the workforce if you look at it. So flexibility, if you ask me, that is the word, that is the key, that is the need of the hour, which allows women not just to take care, but also to take charge. So speaking about BYJU's, and like Upasana said, change actually begins on the top. We've had a good representation since inception. This balance has actually trickled down to the organization. 33% of our board is women, 33% of our top management is women, and 40% of our entire workforce is women. Maybe it's education, because if you look at teaching, it's something that it comes to women naturally. They teach their children, they teach people around them. So they're more born, they're more born to be good teachers. So anyway, I'm a strong believer in the power of mentorship also, the role it plays in building up people around you. So here at BYJU's, we're focusing on creating mentors, role models for all our young employees. Average age is 24, so very, very young workforce. So this is few things which has worked for us. It's worked for MobiKwik, it's worked for BYJU's, and it's worked for all companies who have been cognizant of diversity since inception.
Yeah, thanks, Divya and Upasana. I think very fascinating. 33% at board, 33% at the top leadership, and 40% across the organization. I think it's a very promising number, to say the least, right? But having said that, most organizations and PwC themselves have 2 out of the 7 ILT members women. The only big 4 perhaps to have a woman as a chief operating officer. Yet there are tremendous learnings, and one of the biggest learning is that being diverse is one and being inclusive is the other. So maybe Upasana, I'll come to you. How have you seen your organization move from diversity focused to being inclusive focused? Because inclusive diversity is very different from diversity is a number game. Inclusion is not a number game. So what's your reaction to that one?
No, I completely agree. I mean, just having the people there, is different from them having a voice. And I think to that, I would like to say that, we haven't had a chance to know each other well so far, but, I'm fairly opinionated, and it wasn't easy for me, to get started as a founder in India, facing tremendous pushback from my very well-educated family as well. Not because they didn't want me to work, they always wanted me to work, but entrepreneurship is a whole different ball game. So coming back to this topic of having a voice, having a seat at the table, I think that the way you make this happen is by keeping the culture of the company, very open and transparent. And it is not just related to gender, by the way. It is also agnostic to hierarchy or level of responsibility. I mean, I still recall several years ago when we were in a boardroom, about 25-30 of us, and we were discussing what would be our Diwali promo campaign. And we were a little late because we had some regulatory audit or something going on, due to which we had not planned it thoroughly. And I remember it was a fair game and everybody was pitching in their ideas, from founders to business heads, etc. And the idea actually that we went with, Chaitali, I want to tell you, is the idea that came from an intern, who was interning in the company for 3 months. And, it wasn't that there weren't detractors. In fact, I was one of the detractors saying that ye nahi chalega, this won't scale. This idea is, matlab, isme itna gumption nahi hai. But we went around the table. There were 3-4 ideas that had emerged. And we all debated about the pros and cons of all those themes. And we decided that that was the theme to go after. I think that is sort of inclusion. Every person matters. And the only way to have that inbuilt is by being, open. So oftentimes, we actually say no to people at the leadership level who come up with that, very old school thought process that, it's my way or the highway. I mean, I don't think that works. And to that extent, I can tell you, when we were forming our first business finance team, and, I championed that cause. This was several years ago. And there was a woman in our finance team who became the VP of business finance. And interestingly enough, the first 2-3 hires that she and I made in that team were also all women, not by choice. We were not being biased, ki sirf women hi chahiye, but that's how it happened. And so when they started, and this was a new setup in the company itself, going from crazy growth to being profitability focused. And there was this, set of 3 women with different level of experiences, bringing all these men, all the business heads at the time were men, putting them in their place. Ki, you have achieved this goal, but you have gone out of the budget. And it was, empowering people, regardless of their stature, age, experience, degree, gender, and enabling them to do, their jobs really well. I think that is what creates a difference. And that is what I call inclusion. I think that inclusive diversity is still a far cry for the larger context, whether in India or globally, because abhi to diversity hi nahi hai. I mean, these numbers of diversity that Divya and I were talking about, these are not the norms. I mean, my office is here in Gurgaon, and I can see from here a bunch of very large unicorn or decacorn startup offices. Many of them don't have female leadership. They don't have 30-35%, diversity. So I think that gender equality is still a big issue. And also parity of salary, by the way, which I also think is a large issue, that most companies where there isn't women leadership, it's getting slid under the carpet, and people are not doing anything about it. So I think inclusion at mass level is still far away. First, we need equality and parity of pay.
So, Upasana, very interesting thoughts. I've been consulting for many years now, and I'm yet looking to step into a room where I'm greeted by more women on the other side than men. Even today, most of the rooms that I walk into are all men, or at best, most men, right? And I don't think it's a welcome feeling, because it makes you, we did a very interesting exercise in one of our journeys. We had about 250 leaders, and we put up all the women in one room, and we got a few men to walk into that room to actually take a session. They walked in and they were all red-faced. They had never experienced that, right? And this was across PwC Global. And the point was made at the end of the day, this is what women experience every day. So, Divya, maybe coming to you, according to you, this journey of inclusive diversity, do you think it's a systemic problem? Is it a capability problem? Or is it a, ways of working and a culture problem? What do you think is the real bottleneck here? Because cognitively, everybody gets it, but yet.
Yeah. See, unfortunately, and starting with this diversity and inclusion, both these words, very powerful, but used interchangeably very wrongly in corporate parlance, right? When in fact, these two are very distinct phenomena. And yes, I see it as a systemic issue. So if you look at diversity, it's the representation of different people in an organization. What is inclusion? Inclusion is ensuring that everyone has an equal opportunity to contribute, to influence every part at the workplace. So that happens when you can acknowledge an idea or a contribution based on what it is, not whom or where it came from. And this is what Upasana said, right? While there was a setback on what the intern said, finally they went with it. And it was the idea. It was not from where it came, which part of the organization it came, or whom it came from. So while companies actually can play a huge role in this, ensuring good numbers of diversity, ensuring inclusivity, I think, and that's something that's understated, efforts at home, support from families, that cannot be belittled, right? Culturally, when we start accepting that women can take care and take charge, and men can take charge and take care, that's when the real shift can happen. It's a mindset shift, and it starts at home. And from an organizational perspective, I think the key in maintaining diversity is gender balance among the core leadership. She said that she looked out of the window and she saw that even in most of the decacrons, everyone, there is very less leadership. That's where it starts. This cannot be an afterthought, right? It has to be thought about initially. Otherwise, you'll never achieve, because this is not a revenue number you want to hit. This is something which is it's beyond a number. There are humans involved. That it cannot be tokenism at the end of the day. It has to be about enablement. It also has to be about the right people. Otherwise, what happens at the end of it? You will, just to fill that number, you compromise talent. You compromise on talent. You compromise on the right people just because you want to fill a seat, or you just want to have that number. So that's basically bringing me back to the point that it's about inception. It's about having women in strong leadership positions. The balance is usually in place throughout the organization. And I think one thing I'm proud to say is that at BYJU's, we've been at this the forefront of this systemic problem. And one of the most important things is hiring without bias. There is this interesting study, it's called the Queen Bee myth, which says that women tend to surround themselves with more women. And she gave us an example, right, about the finance team. And it's true. And when I think about it, the people whom I've hired, it's not that I've hired them because they're women, but it's just that I've hired without bias. And that's what happens. When you hire without bias, diversity automatically sets in. You have the numbers that you're targeting. You have the right numbers from the start. We've never segregated roles, be it tech, be it product, which are usually male-dominated, male-heavy roles. Because if you look at the number of graduates, we have 50% graduates who are women in the country, but somehow only 23% are in the workforce. Now, this is happening only because they're probably not having a job which gives them that sort of flexibility where they're able to come back and represent. So I think having gender neutral leave policies, and like I said, education, we have a strong woman teaching workforce. We've enabled 12,000 women to teach from home over the last 15 months, from India to the world. So, and education is one sector which can truly empower women, help them pursue jobs that offer flexibility, job satisfaction, immense respect, and also limitless opportunities, right? And that's what it happens. So I think I'm in a sector where we can create change. That's why it's exciting. Education is something which is close to a lot of us. We're able to do much more. Scope is limitless. So true equality is creating equal opportunities for everybody. It's not something that's built in a day. Clearly, like both our companies have shown it, it's through mindful changes. It's through the introduction of inclusive policies, readjusting the lens through which we see gender, that can truly attain diversity and inclusion in the workplace.
Thanks, Divya. And I think it's very fascinating to hear what you just said, right? At the end of the day, it is a systemic recourse, because at the end of the day, my leadership can think about it, but if we don't have systems, processes, practices, for instance, flexibility, which was a taboo in a lot of companies earlier, now you are left with no choice, because it has become the cornerstone, the table stakes for actually inclusion, forget gender, right?
Chaitali,
So
even
maybe,
men want flexibility now, right, Chaitali?
That's
Even
what, gender notwithstanding, who doesn't want? So it's about tasting blood. At the end of the day, if you know what you can do with yourself and your lives, you would not want to give it up for anything, isn't it? So maybe Upasana, first to you, and Divya to you. What has been your personal mantra to ensure that you see inclusive diversity getting practiced? What are some new and different things either you have done or you have enabled within your capacity? Maybe first to you, Upasana, and then to you, Divya. And this is pretty much our last conversation, so leave your punch here.
So I think, nothing to do with diversity or inclusion, but I think my personal mantra has always been to be, very open and honest with people. And whether it is good or bad feedback, whether I'm receiving it or giving it, I try to be honest. I think one of the other things is to be able to listen to people. Like, what do they really want? What can really help them? And to that extent, how, we can improve our programs as well. And, being humane, is very simplistically said, but it's hard to do. So to extend it to how this has helped us in the form of attracting and retaining diverse talent is firstly back to work programs. I think that is something that very few companies are doing. And there is a fantastic opportunity there to bring in high quality employees and keep them locked in. So as an example, we have at least 10 women on maternity right now, all in engineering and product. And I'm very happy because I know from the previous batch that they're all going to come back and they're all going to regain confidence and redo their jobs and grow from there. Second thing I personally take interest in is grooming and upskilling. So I think at certain points, people want to, been there, done that, want to do something slightly different where I have the skills, but I may need a little help. And thankfully, BYJU's and several other education platforms are available these days for people to do short programs and upskill themselves. And grooming is something, that I personally try to help with by organizing some sort of small programs in terms of ask me anything, all hands, things like that, for a select group of people. Because I think the skills and the confidence comes from being there and getting things done, and or a little bit of things that can be learned from online. But I think it's the confidence, the soft skills, and the ability to get your point across, sometimes subtly, other times assertively. I think these are some of the places where I think that none of our schools and universities actually prepare us, and I think it goes a long way for people to figure out that this is my opportunity, this is my project, this is my promotion to be taken, and I need to have the guts and the confidence to be able to say that myself and defend it also, that why I think I deserve it.
When she spoke about maternity, when Upasana spoke about that, I was just thinking, I'm counting of the number of women who've gone and come back and taken bigger roles, right? Because even for me as a mother, second time, you somehow value time so much more that you learn to prioritize. Prioritization is everything. And that enables you also as a leader. So the lines are actually more blurred than what we think. Becoming a mother can actually make you even more capable at work, because you start valuing each and every minute of the day. I know that I've done that. Before I had my first one, and the last 7 years, I've had 2 children. The younger one is 1 year old. But I've just come to understand how important time is, and I won't waste a minute, right? It's not about starting at 9 or 7 in the morning and going till 11 in the night. Even if you do it from 10 to 7, but you're able to dedicate every minute in the most valuable manner, it actually works. And so there are so many examples of women who come back and who set examples, led teams, gone from managers to senior managers, gotten promoted, done outstandingly well, because if they are so capable. And actually, in a way, becoming a mother has made you even more, right? So yeah, I second you, Upasana. I was just thinking when you said that. Personal mantra wise, I think to let women stand up for themselves when they strongly believe in something, because every time they do that, without knowing it, without claiming it, they're actually standing up for all women. There are so many times when we need to stand up and we need to travel the road less taken. And someone I met yesterday told me that it's that third line in that poem, that Robert Frost poem, which usually gets missed out the most. You must have heard this poem, which says, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by.
Less traveled.
And that has made all the difference. And that's the third line, which we normally don't hear, but that's the most important one. And for me personally, it's about building up the women who are around me each and every day. In my experience, nothing brings about a stronger, mutual, more long-standing impact than women supporting women. So the most powerful symbol of solidarity is taking a stand publicly for somebody. This is one mantra I will always continue to live by.
Super. I think fantastic points, Upasana and Divya. And my personal takeaway has been the way you looked at motherhood making you a better leader. Indeed, it is. Motherhood is the start of a new journey and perhaps the biggest transformation for our lives. And if given the opportunity, our ability to bring it back to workplace. So thank you so much, wonderful ladies, for your passion for inclusive diversity, and not just passion, but also deep insight. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Well, I told you earlier, it's a very hot topic. And in business circles these days, it's all about diversity. And as a seeker, you got a different perspective about it. And now it makes you wonder that there's much more towards it. I want to thank Upasana Taku. I want to thank Divya Gokulnath for joining us at most. And of course, thanking our moderator, Chaitali Mukherjee, for being an absolute orator as always. And now, as it hits the lunchtime, we are on to the next side. And this one is giving you a little sneak peek about CXO's shoot and a shot towards the next, leveraging digital ecosystem for accelerating business growth. That's up next.